Hello BookTube and welcome to Weekly Reads. Let me begin with the BookTube Prize. I'm judging round 2 of the nonfiction side of the prize, and I've done a bit of reading in the 6 books I'm judging. I'm judging Group B. So I listened to American Predator by Maureen Callahan and In the Dream House by Carmen Machado on audiobook. That was the only way I could get those two through my library, using the e-resources since they are currently closed due to the shelter-in-place order. I'm currently working my way through No Visible Bruises by Louise Snyder, and I will be reading Uninhabitable Earth by David Wallace-Wells after I finish off No Visible Bruises. And so that should be, I should finish No Visible Bruises tomorrow, get started with Uninhabitable Earth on Sunday, and probably read it into midweek next week. And then I'll touch on what I'll be reading after Uninhabitable Earth in a few minutes. I'm planning on taking a break from BookTube Prize judge reading, and so I will be getting to Guest House for Young Widows probably in the next week or two. And then Ronan Farrow's Catch and Kill. It is impractical for me to check out electronically through my local library, so I'm buying it, and it should come hopefully in the next 2 weeks. I haven't gotten confirmation that it's shipped yet, but normally once it's shipped, books from Libras usually take about a week to a week and a half. So anyway, moving aside from the BookTube Prize, I finished 3 other books. I'm going to talk about the fantasy before I touch on the history book. So let's begin with the book I read on Sunday, The Blue Eye by Ausma Zehanat Khan. I think I am definitely in the middle of, or pretty much gone well beyond, a taste change or something, because as much as I loved the Blood Print and the Black Khan, despite having some issues with the Black Khan, I could not get into this book at all. It started with the prologue, and then while the chapters following Arian and her quest for time back were wonderfully written, it's the Ashfall subplot just didn't do anything for me. And I think this book really highlights some issues that Khan has in her writing. By this point, the series is rather repetitive. I mean, it's basically the same quest over and over. Arian trying to find some MacGuffin that will allow her to better, or enable her to swiftly defeat the Talisman, this authoritarian, misogynistic insurgency that has taken over most of Khorasan. And yeah, and then the 4th book seems to be repeating the general style, so it's a bit repetitive. And then the Ashfall subplot, I had issues with it in the Black Con. There's a storyline that's, I'm not entirely sure what Khan intended with it. One of the characters, Arasalan, is what we would describe as gay. He's in love with the Black Khan. And the Black Khan's sister, Doria, who is a princess who wishes to be more than just a court ornament. She has dreams of scholarship. She wishes to join the companions of Hera. And she is in love with Arsalan. And how Khan handles that is uncomfortable. And I don't know necessarily if that was... I mean, I don't think that was intended. I mean, particularly when, spoiler warning, Doria dies at the climax. And it is very clear that, excuse me, the Black Khan mentions that both he and Arsalan failed her. And he stares at Arsalan very pointedly. And Arsalan doesn't counter that. And then in this book, for some odd reason, Doria comes back and yeah, deeply uncomfortable. Also the fact that it's the Ashfall subplot in general is, I think, rather weak. So I was very disappointed, unfortunately. And the disappointment continued with Jaine Fenn's Broken Shadow, the sequel to Hidden Sun, which I enjoyed when I read it in December. So this book follows on the adventures of Rhea Harlan. This time, she is the one in trouble. She is a early scientist, a natural philosopher, or in this case, a natural inquirer. And some of her experiments, her theories, run counter to the dictates of the local church. And she is very much a female Galileo. And in defending herself, she has to rely on her ne'er-do-well brother and some of the things that he became involved in during book one rears its head again. So, yeah. I wasn't feeling this book, unfortunately. I might come back to it later, maybe later this year or next year or something, and give it another go. Hopefully, I will eventually rediscover my love of fantasy, but for now, yeah, so frustrating. Okay, so now the book that I enjoyed, absolutely enjoyed, when I finished it off on Saturday and read it like Thursday and Friday and finished on Saturday, was David Reynolds' Island Stories. Britain and its history in the age of Brexit. I really enjoyed this book. It's an intellectual history of what led up to Brexit, of how Britain sees its decline, or at least the leadership in Britain sees its decline, its rise, its role as imperial power, its relationship with the English-speaking former colonies, say Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa to a degree, the United States. Also, it's Britain's relationship with the constituent parts of the United Kingdom, England to Scotland, Wales, Ireland, and Britain's relationship with Europe, and ends with a very fascinating history of Brexit and the immediate post-Brexit period. And I have to say, I am looking forward, and hopefully David Reynolds writes it, a history of the lead up, the campaign, and the aftermath of Brexit. It is just amazing. Very interesting story. So I really love this book, and definitely I think I want to add more of David Reynolds' work to my collection. So, those were the books I read this week. I'm still reading Uninhabitable Bruises, as I said earlier, and once I finish Uninhabitable Bruises, I will move on immediately to Uninhabitable Earth. After I finish Uninhabitable Earth, I am going to read either A Queen in Hiding by Sarah Kozloff or Gates of Stone by Angus MacAllan. Although there is a possibility that I will, once I finish off Uninhabitable Earth, then I might, in those brief moments before I log off of the part of the library website, go ahead and request or borrow Guest House for Young Widows. So, but we shall see, and I'll talk about that next week. So I've also been watching some movies. I talked yesterday in my writing update that I watched The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3 last Thursday, which was very enjoyable. I love that movie, even if it in all of its problematic 1970s New York. And I watched The Last Picture Show, which is an adaptation of Larry McMurtry's semi-autobiographical novel of the same name, which I didn't quite like as much. I thought it was a little too disjointed. And I've been watching a whole lot of art videos. One, I guess, positive, as much as one can say anything about the current pandemic as being positive, is that a lot of the artists on YouTube are doing a lot more art videos and longer art videos where you can watch the entire process of doing a painting. And a lot of the pastelists that I follow, Marla Baguetta, Karen Margulis, Sarah Jenkins, I think it's Sarah Jenkins, Bethany Field, Emma Colbert, are all doing more videos and longer videos. So that's pretty cool. So anyway, makes me want to go paint, but we'll see if I do that this weekend. Anyway, I'm starting to ramble now, so I will sign off and I will talk to you hopefully on Monday. Hopefully I'll find something to make a video about on Monday. Oh, one more thing I forgot to mention. I was wanting to do a quick reaction to the Hugos. So I'm not really I haven't really can't comment on most of the nominations. I'm not as into particularly like shorter fiction, and I don't really watch a whole lot of TV or movies, so I can't really talk about that. I have read 3 of the nominated novels. Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir, Middle Game by Shauna McGuire, and A Memory Called Empire by Arkady Martine. And I'm not particularly, I didn't care for Gideon the Ninth at all. Middle Game is good, but it had its problems. And then A Memory Called Empire, I thought was okay. Not necessarily spectacular. I thought the world building probably could have had a better attention paid to it, especially the fact that in an interstellar state, you would have a larger embassy than an ambassadorship of one. But anyway, but then again, yeah. I think a lot of science fiction and fantasy do tend to oversimplify certain elements of world building while enlarging other bits of world building. So anyway, yeah, I think of the three I've read, I'm probably going to say Metal Game probably has the best odds of winning. But we shall see. So anyway, that's it for now. Talk to you again on Monday, and until then, have a great weekend and stay safe.